literally now on YouTube?
Now. Evening, everyone. Good morning
Good
for those that
evening.
are in other places of the world. It's midnight. It's we've got 1 minute to wait, so hopefully you guys can hold on 1 minute. I hope everyone's doing well. Let us know in the chat where you're from, and let us know what faction
Absolutely.
you want the most out of Cruel Boys and Stormcast. I think the Green Boys
And
are
let us know
stealing
let us know what questions you want answering as well, because we're like 10 seconds away from being allowed to talk about this. We're
Yeah.
we're not going to screw about here, by the way, guys. We're going to jump into the meaty stuff, so there's not going to be any, like talking about bits that really don't matter that much. We're going to jump into the things that are going to make the biggest difference to your games the most.
Hi guys. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we are. We're going to go straight into the top 10, and we can start at number 1, the big hitter, because let's not waste people's time when it's late at night and stuff, and let's try and give you an overview. I can answer that now. It's 1 minute past. So Jonathan, how's the first turn? Exactly the same as it is now. There you go. The stream will go as long as I want it to go on until I get too tired to talk.
Let's get sleepy.
Probably 2 hours
or until
maximum.
I get too stupid.
Well, that's already happening, right? So you'll be able to watch this back, Chris, so you don't need to take notes, but do what you want. We've also got 6 videos coming out, 6-7 videos over the week, each day, which will go into more detail with all the stuff. So let's not mess around. Thank you everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it, and let's go straight into it. So we're going to talk about the top 10 changes to Age of Sigmar and the new box set Dominion. We can't talk about General's Handbook. Don't ask me questions. I won't be able to answer it. Sorry, I don't have it. It's not on the embargo. So,
and if you ask me any questions, I will make up the answers. So I would not advise it.
Yes, it will be archived to watch later. All live streams on YouTube become a video you can watch. So if you want to go to bed, you can get up. Hey, Coach, good to see you.
Oh, hello,
good day,
AOS Coach.
So top 10. Okay, right. Let's get straight into it. So top 10, as I've put them, this is not necessarily how everyone will put them, and obviously we're a match play channel, so someone will probably who's more narrative will probably put Path to Glory right at the top. We're not really going to talk about Path to Glory. I have skim read it. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I have skim read it. After we've done the main match play stuff, if you want to ask me about it, I will butcher the answers and try and give you the information.
No, we cannot talk about points. No more questions about things that are from the General's Handbook, please.
Yeah,
we'll talk about what's on screen.
We also don't have the General's Handbook, so
again, I can make some up.
We can. It's 1,000, 1 million. So number 1, no, Coherency is not number 1. Top 10 changes. So grand strategies, battle tactics, and objective capture. So grand strategies were revealed on the articles leading up to the release. So this is a objective that goes on your army list that scores you victory points if you complete it at the end of the game. So you put it on your army list.
So if you're going to a tournament, you pick this prior to the tournament, and it is
the same in every game.
Probably we're assuming it's going to be submitted along with your list. So, it's concrete every single game.
Now, battle tactics are... We will go into more detail after I've done the top 10, but I'm going to run through it, then we'll digest the stuff, okay? Battle tactics are basically like turn-by-turn missions. So in your hero phase, you pick one of these battle tactics from a list. There's a generic list in the core rules. And basically what you do is you can use them once per game. And if you achieve them in that turn, you get the points, and if you don't get the points. So they're a bit like a hidden agenda, but you can't use them more than once, and they're open information, and you pick them in your hero phase. So it's quite an important piece of winning the game, basically. Then the last bit in winning games is objective capture. So I think this was revealed today in an article for those who might have already read it. But essentially you get normal anything with a wounds characteristic of less than 5 counts as a model, single model, as usual. Anything with a wounds characteristic of 5 or more counts as 2 models for capturing towards objectives. Monsters count as 5 models. So if you are a monster, you count as 5 models towards capturing an objective. It's a pretty big deal. Obviously, Og or more tribes have this similar rule, but theirs is slightly stronger, but it kind of borrows from that. And you would use their rule over this generic one. Objectives are still 6 inches for control from the point. I'll go into more detail of that in a bit. So it's the other than that, that's not really changed. So augurs are still good because they have like an augur counts as 2 and they've got 3 wounds. They count as like a 5 wound model, and I think the monsters count as 10, which is double what a monster counts in another army. So they still have a benefit.
So. Augurs are still solidly ahead for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's not as bad as if you're an OBR player. Sorry, guys. I'm kidding.
Nothing's that bad.
Right, the next one is big. Okay, so you've probably seen the article on reinforcements, the way enhancements work, and core battalions. So what you won't have seen is that in matched play, war scroll battalions are not legal. So any of the war scroll battalions in the books that have special rules that you pay points for, they are for open and narrative only. So things like Red Banqueteers or I'm trying to think of some now.
Ruck, all that jazz.
Thricefold, Befoulment, all that kind of stuff. So those battalions are no longer match play viable. So there you go. There's no plus artifact for having a war scroll battalion. There's none of that. So,
dude, we're gonna, guys, if there's something that's in the list, we're going to tell you what it is. So without wishing to come across as rude, all the people asking what an enhancement is, what a commandability is, we're going to run top to bottom down the list, and then after that we'll give you some more details. So we're about to talk about a lot of the things you're asking about.
So enhancements are essentially the things like artifacts, triumphs, spells, mount traits.
Yeah, they've all been rolled into one.
So they're called an enhancement. When you pick an army, you get one of everything. You can only use the triumph if you're less points. And the battalions unlock additional choices, and you can choose which category you want. Again, we'll show that in more detail.
Yeah.
Reinforcement points. This is a big change that's going to affect army compositions. This is all about building armies at this point, okay? So, what's Age of Sigmar? I'm assuming you know, but there you go. So, reinforcement points are they are like when you take a war scroll, it has a minimum size. Every time you want to double the unit, so you want to go, I have like, say you go like, I have 5 liberators, I now want 10 liberators, that costs you a reinforcement point. So in match play, a 2,000 point army gets 4 reinforcement points, and the key point is the only unit that can be double reinforced are battle line units. So the reason that's important is because if you're playing, for example, Soulblight Gravelords, and you've got a unit of Graveguard, you could have a unit of 20, but unless you've got a White King General, you can't have 30. So it basically means that you're going to double up your units only if they're battle line, and the maximum is to have the core battalions are free; they don't cost any points. Ryan, I can't answer that.
Yeah, you can take as many as you can fit in.
Yeah, and I believe you can duplicate them as well. So that's reinforcement points. Again, I know you guys got loads of questions. You want to know more. Storm of Blood. Do I understand correctly that the baselist gets to pick one of each enhancement or one enhancement period? It's one of each category, and then if you get an additional enhancement, you pick one particular one out of the list, and you can't have more than one command trait. Again, I don't know. It might be a GHB thing, but it's not at the moment. There's no points for the core battalions. You just take them. So
Doesn't look like it.
no, they're not like War Scroll battalions. So command abilities. So the command abilities are pretty important, as some of them have been revealed. So from your command abilities, they actually affect in multiple phases. So the restrictions on command abilities are you can only use each one once per phase. A unit can only issue one once per phase, and you could only receive one once per phase.
So you can use the same one multiple times in the same turn as long as it's in different phases.
In different phases, yes. So you could use all-out defense in the shooting phase and in the combat phase.
Got you, yeah.
But you couldn't use all-out defense on 2 different units in the combat phase. And all-out defense is +1 save, for those who don't know. If you do all-out defense on a unit, they couldn't also get all-out attack. For example, if you use a command ability that gives you +1 attack from your War Scroll, they wouldn't then also be able to get all-out defense. So you can't basically stack command abilities anymore, and you can't repeat. Now, this is quite important for things like Inspiring Presence. So you can't actually make multiple units immune to Battleshark.
Yeah.
So
anyways, you can get the same effect with a different name as immune to Battleshock or +1 save or whatever. They are becoming just more and more valuable because you can't spread these around. Also, things like just getting to re-roll a charge, that's now a precious resource. You get one of it.
Yeah. So Freer or models can issue and receive one. So if you've issued one from your general in a phase, you can't issue another one from your general. But as we know, unit champions can issue, so can heroes, so can your general. So to be honest, that doesn't really come into it very often because it's just the stacking that's really the big deal.
Good question from Nick Wilson about AoE on command abilities, which is probably worth answering now.
Okay. What is it?
What about AoE command abilities? So I presume he means here, how does that work if someone's affected by one ability? They're within the aura of it.
We obviously haven't seen FAQs, so I don't know how it will be landed. I would assume the way it's worded that if you use an area of effect command ability in, say, for example, the hero phase from, I don't know, Manfred, for example, then he wouldn't be able to issue or receive another one in the hero phase. But and units within his bubble, they get an effect because he issued it, but they're not really receiving it. They're not like a target. So I would kind of assume that in other phases, so if you put like a command ability on in the hero phase, give you +1 attack, in the combat phase, you haven't received a command ability in that phase. So the way I read
that's
it,
how
you can give them another one in the combat phase. Now, I don't know how that'll be. If that gets FAQ'd, it might change, but that's how I read it in raw rules as written. So I would say play it like that until we know otherwise.
Yeah.
So command ability is a big one because you react. So you can do them. There's obviously we've got a list of them we can go through. So I will go through those. There's 5 of them, one in each phase, basically, or more than that actually. But I'll go through them. So the next point are Halsey. Do command points persist each battle round? No, they do not. So you use them in the turn.
You used up.
Yeah, so basically command abilities are your command points, you generate the start of the battle round. So whoever goes second gets 2, whoever goes first gets 1. Then your units are essentially saying, okay, it goes to your hero phase. If your general's alive, you get 1. There's heroic action you can do to get 1. And then obviously armies have other ways of doing it, but then you get 1 in each person's hero phase. So even in their hero phase, you could do a heroic action and get a command point for your general being alive. So over the turn, you're going to have like 4, 5, sort of number of command points. So yeah, it's pretty good. It feels you don't get as many as Relentless Discipline, like if you've played OBR, but you get a lot more. So. And they don't persist, so you can't save them up as like a bank, wait to a turn and then bust your load. but also because you can't do multiple of the same command ability, you can't stack anything. So like Volturnus, for
it's
example,
no, like,
can't do it three times anyway, even if you had the command points.
Yeah, exactly.
Multiple generals, I believe you get one for a general. I don't think you get one per general.
Yeah,
So,
otherwise it'd be abusive. Unfortunately, as a Slanesh player.
yes, the general does have to be alive. But I think if you have multiple generals and one dies, you've still got a general technically, so you're okay. So a lot of the big monstrous guys that count as in addition are quite good for that. So heroic actions and monstrous rampages. These are actions that you can do in your hero phase, and there's a list of them. I will go through them in a bit. They're obviously been in an article as well. And monstrous rampages are things you do at the end of the charge phase with monsters. So there's some good stuff on that. Obviously, we've got videos coming out in the week to go through a lot more detail on this. I'm very glossing over all of this, then I'll dive into stuff after. I just want to do the top 10 so you guys can understand the big hitters. Then we've got changes to Wizards, Priests, Endless Spells, and Invocation. There's actually a lot of changes here.
Huge amount.
So, Chris, is there any way to get more CP in turn? Yes, you get in your hero phase, you generate, and you could do a heroic action. And in their hero phase, you generate, and you get some at the start of the battle round. And armies have other ways of getting them. For example, if you've got the Rod of Misrule in Slanesh, you get those in your hero phase. So Wizards, Priests, Endless Spells, and Invocation. So there was been an article on this as well. Oh, yes, I can confirm, Dale. I have the book. Thank you, Games Workshop. And yes, we will be doing it, and I will be showing you some of the rules. So just bear with me. We'll get there. The quicker I get through this, the better. Then I'll deep dive. Okay. So I know there's loads of questions. Yes, I have the book. So thank you, Games Workshop, for sending us a sample. So Wizards, Priests, and the Spells Invocations. So one of the big things in the Magic phase is that missed casts are back. So people who have played old Warhammer, if you roll a double one to cast, you miscast, and basically you don't cast a spell, even if it would automatically be cast with bonuses. The wizard can no longer cast anything that phase, so that's his phase over. So if you've got Nagash and you double on your first spell,
Painful.
Yeah, it is painful. I've seen it happen. And then you, I don't know, Dale. Yes, they've released the embargo today. I double checked it, triple checked it. So I just, fine. If you miscast, you take D3 mortal wounds as well. So you take some damage, your phase ends, and your spell doesn't work. Unless you're techless, you just ignore those rules and do what you want. Yes. Nagash gets cool though, Grace here. So the next change is
that's
Arcane Bolt. Okay, so Arcane Bolt now, I won't go through it in lots of detail now, but I would just tell you now that now you cast it, and hi Andrea, and it becomes like a ball that, if you imagine, it's like a ball that goes around your wizard. And at a time when there's a target within 12 at the start of the phase, or within 3, you can unleash it and do mortal wounds. So Nagash can cast it more than once.
Yep.
So he can put multiple arcane bolts flying around his head, and when you get within range, he can unleash them all.
You can also plow into a screen and just delete it, which is excellent.
It's 1 mortal wound or D3 if you're within range. And yes, it is the Shaman Lightning Shield from World of Warcraft. That's exactly how I imagine it to be. So,
stupid shit.
No, not your whole hero phase, Joe. Just that wizard's phase.
No, it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's not like 8th edition bad.
Yeah, it's not like you're cascaded and taking your army off. I've seen that. So obviously, endless spells are now controlled. Yeah, Arcane as well, but only not as impactful. So they within 30 of your wizards, the other person can't move them. They're like you, only you get to move them. They move in both people's hero phases. Priests also, there's no cycling of spells. So you can't, if you dispel an endless spell in your hero phase, you can't recast it. in that phase. So if you say, for example, there was a tactic you used to use with the Comet in Stormcast, where the first thing you do in your hero phase is dispel it, and then the next you'd then cast it again and drop it and get the impact hit again. Mystic Shield is +1 armor save now, not reroll ones. So
Big deal.
There's a big thing about when we get to 0.6, I'll explain why that's important. Okay. Arcane is my boy, but yeah. No, you can't take Nagash in less than 2k points. Yeah, that's true. Because half your army can't be spent on a single model, I believe. But he shouldn't really be there in small games, let's be honest. Who doesn't play 2,000 points? That's just the only game there isn't there. I mean, that's all this other stuff. Invocations. So priests can get rid of endless spells now, which is quite cool. Invocations can get what's the word that they use? Banished by other priests. So you can take them off, but you can also try and, like, when they try and you can't interact with the other priests. And there's a generic rule for if you roll a 1 on your priest that you take a mortal wound and you fail. There's also rules for things like generic prayers, which you get smite and bless, which I think have been revealed. But there's also some generic enhancement prayers, which you could spend an enhancement to take from those ones, or if you don't have a law yourself, you could take from there. Does save stack? Technically, yes, but also no. When I get to 0.6, I'll explain, which we're getting to very shortly.
Appreciate the help, Rad.
Yeah,
police in the comments.
Thank you so much, Brad. So it is. I didn't really anticipate that we're not used to this many people watching. I do really appreciate it. So modifier. Modifier caps. So what seems to have happened? There's lots of ways to get bonuses to hit, bonuses to wound, and bonuses to save. But you cannot get more than +1 or worse than -1 after you have
done the maths,
consolidated the results.
Yeah. So if I've got 4 rend and you've got +5 save, the end result is you got +1 save.
Yeah, but the exception to that is saves, where you can get worse than -1. So saves can only ever be at +1 maximum, but you can stack it in a way. So if I had +3 save and your rend 2, it would still be +1.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And Nagash is not a priest. That was an error in the app. Just that was funny having that conversation. So
it'd like to be.
Yeah, it is. He's not. He is a kind of a Karan priest, but he's also a wizard, and I think in the app he didn't have the wizard keyword, bizarrely. So modifier is quite important. So if you had +/-3, Ren still works as normal. But if you can stack your save multiple times, then that counteracts the rend. But you're only ever going to be at +1 save. So if you've got a 4-up save, the best you're going to be is 3-up. But you could have a 3-up against rend 2 if you had +3. Hopefully that's not too confusing. Essentially, you work out all the modifiers, see what the end result is, and that's what it is. So there you go. And also what's important to note with shields, like some shields will say you have a save characteristic of something, and others will say you get +1 save. They are very different. So if you have a save characteristic of something, you can still add to that. So, but if it says your armor save, your shield gives you +1, then basically that is your modifier. Yeah, so its net modifier is capped at 1, Alex. Basically, exactly that. You just said it way better than I did. Thank you. And that's to hit, to wound, and save, but not in the negative. So you constantly can have -4 to your save, and obviously you've got the thing: 1's always fail, 6 is always succeed, except for saves. Coherency. So obviously this is a big one. Everyone's seen the coherency stuff that's come out. about if you have more than 5 models, you have to have 2 models within 1 inch. It's not as big a deal as people think.
No, it will take constant readjustment for the first few games, but it's just a different way to play the game, and it feels a lot more logical and results in a lot less bullshit on the table.
It does. It stops people doing weird shapes and things, but there are still some things you do. So, for example, if you have a screen and you want to put 20 models in a line and they're just there to die, you can 100% do that if you put a little triangle of models at each end, because the 2 at the end would still be within 1. I did a lead-up show to this where I talk about coherency, and I've got some diagrams of pictures, and I draw on it and I explain it. I would recommend watching that, so if you want to know more about that. We actually have facehammer movement trays on Element AOS Coach, but I might make some triangle ones because I think triangles are good. A 32 mil can hit over a 32 if they've got a 2-inch reach. If they've got a 1-inch reach, they can't because that's less than 32 mil. But if you're slightly to the side, and it's no different if you've played Bloodbound Blood Warriors like I have for years, if you form like a little crenellated teeth thing, then you can kind of poke through the gaps. One of the things...
Someone else, anything we can say to stop people complaining so much? Because I'm excited to see it in practice. The internet's always going to complain, unfortunately. I think when people have actually played games, they will probably complain less. And I would say, as a whole, 95% of what is here in this edition is here to improve the quality of life on the table. And I think it's amazing. Like, genuinely, a lot of things work the way that you would presume they do and the way that you think they should do. And it's great. It's just taking some readjustment because that's not where we were with the last edition.
Yeah, Carter, that's right. If you lost 1 casualty, you'd go down to 5, but then that 5 could still be in a position to be awkward. You still stop people dropping at the end of the movement phase because that's before the shooting phase. It depends what you're trying to achieve on the table with your screen. You can actually put multiple models in the back rank, like spread out, so you can have what we call like fire breaks of triangles. 25 mil can still be in a line when base to base because a 1-inch will reach over 2, so that's fine. As soon as you go to 5 models, the rule reverts down to 1-inch reach. So if you have a unit of 6 and you form 2 triangles of 3 with 2 in the front, 1 at the back, as soon as you lose one, the 2 on one side that you didn't take the casualty from can pile out into a line anyway. You can... One of the important things, and one of the things that hasn't been mentioned before, is that there's been a change to piling in.
Which is huge.
Which means the coherency thing isn't that big a deal, okay? So piling in, as people who played the old like AOS 2 will know, if you had to move closer to the model that you were next to. Okay? So if you piled in, you had to finish the move closer to the model. So if 2 models touched your base, like if you think Mickey Mouse, you're the head, they're the ears, that model can't move because any way it moves, it would be further away from one of the models. The wording on that has changed to closer to the unit. So if you're touching the unit, even if you're touching 4 models, you can still pile in as long as at the end of that move you're touching a model. So actually... you can slide units against units and characters around units and across over the top of units if you fly. You can't really get pinned. So the stuff with piling in is kind of not that big a deal. And what I mean by that is... when in the old edition, your reach was really important because you get a situation where you can't move your models. You're like, I can't pile in their lots, and therefore you reach and you can't move your bases out the way. Now you can slide your models around. So if you start your pile in touching a base in a unit of 20 guys, as long as at the end of that move you're touching a model in that unit, it doesn't have to be the same one, and you're still in coherency, that's completely fine.
Yeah, and you could have even, if you've got plus 6 inches, you could have piled in 9 around to the back of the unit, then you're still good.
So
like, just to make it really extreme.
You can do like crazy stuff, like so if they've got like a big blob of men, or women, if they're witch elves, big blob of combat people, like 25 mil infantry, whatever. Archaon comes on the side here. Even though he might have 4 or 5 models touching him, he can pile in across, because as long as at the end of that piling he's touching a model, that's completely fine. So what you can do, anything with long reach and good piling, so Legion of Blood has a +3 piling. So what you can do is almost like go into a unit, and then like if they fly as well, you could literally jump over the back of it and then hit something behind it with the reach, as long as you can fit the base. So it makes your positioning less about like, oh, can I just pile in 2 models to lock you in? Do I activate before you do to lock you in? And more about overall positioning.
Yeah, exactly. Stuart, you're right. Makes the game a bit quicker and cleaner for sure. And Gabe, you still have to finish closer. Yeah, but if you were touching someone and you're now touching someone, you didn't get any less far away. It's neutral the same. If you're going to be
it doesn't feel as gamey as it did before, because like you say, Andrew, that a new player would be like, what? Like, what do you mean I can't move? Now there's 2 models touching Archaon. I don't understand why these 2 like chain gas stop Archaon doing anything because he's on Dargor and he's amazing, You still can, Nick, you just have a model in the back rank. So honestly, it's not
a load of those guys think of brutes as well. They've got people with a 2-inch reach you can mix up within the units, and that now makes a lot more sense, I guess.
Also, because of the reinforcement, you're going to tend to run minimum sized. I mean, obviously, some units are better off than others. I'm not going to bullshit you. Like, if you're on a 40, 50 mil base, you've got a 1-inch reach and you wanted to run a big unit of 12 of them. 1, you probably can't, because the max you can do is reinforce twice. And 2, but then because of the core battalions going, so the War Scroll battalions going, there isn't that big emphasis on having a low drop army. But you can still do it with a core battalion. So like low drop armies are a thing, but it's open to everyone. Whereas what you found is that there are lots of armies that had a good battalion that was low drop that could be a competitive list, and they were a lot more powerful.
Yeah, like the mega, here's everything you want, and it's 1 drop, and there's another thing in it, like the Teach one or the overarching bone split ones or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Should we jump to board size?
Yeah, so the board size has changed. It's like 44 by 60.
Yeah,
I don't want to say much more about that. It's Warcry boards. People have seen it, probably already know about it. Same as 40k. It does make putting objectives a lot easier, because the corners of where the boards are is generally where the objectives are. So looking at the scenarios in the core book, so it's good.
Yeah. Makes it harder to sneak things behind people, I would say.
Yeah,
actually, you squish into a slightly more dense space, but again, just like was commented on for the pile-ins, a little bit faster, and quality of life, I think, is improved a lot as a result of it.
Yeah, I think so. It's good. So returning slain models. So to be honest, causes fear. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I don't tend to run 1-drop battalions in my list. I run Warlord battalion because I want the enhancement and I want the command point. So
you can run both and be 5-drop as well.
Yeah, in match play day, I'll show you that rule.
Warlord.
It's in the core book. It's if you're playing I'll talk about battle packs in a minute anyway. Returning slain models. Let's do that. So slain models now, there's a rule for this. You can't return a slain model. So when you bring dead models back into a unit, they have to be within 1 inch of a model that was in that unit. You can't bring them back 1 inch of another model that was brought back. So what you can't string your unit across anymore. So if you have a unit of like 10 guys and 5 die and you bring the 5 back, you couldn't put them in a line, like going off 5 inches, even if there's no enemy. So you have to put them next to those 5 surviving models. They've all got to be within coherency of that. So it essentially means that you can't string out as much. You can still go within 3 if you're already within 3 of an enemy unit, but you still got to be within 1 of a model already on the table. So if there's enemy units near
Making
you, it can
blobs,
be quite
not
restrictive.
strings and weird. Yeah.
Probably Gabe. I've got about 7 different versions of the horror rules in my head, so I can't.
Who knows what they are anymore?
I can't tell you. Stubble, yes, in the match play battle pack, it's who deployed first gets to choose. Yes,
300
one unit
people
can
in
be
the
part
chat.
of one
Thank you
battalion
so
at a
much,
time.
guys.
Yeah, I do
300 is
appreciate you,
awesome.
Relian, so much. Okay, Killrock. So Blood Knight's normal movement chart, right? So movement. So I will do that in a minute. I'll get to that in a sec. I'll answer that. So terrain rules. Right, cover has changed. Not so basically most stuff is about 10 wounds. Okay, so cover, if you've got 10 wounds or more, you can't get cover. You don't get lookouts, all this stuff. So basically, if you've got 10 wounds or more, you don't get a lot of the benefits because you're a big model. Okay, it's not monster keyword, it's just wound cap. So 10 is the magic number. Okay, in terms of cover, no, it doesn't, Tyler. You can have stuff outside battalions. In terms of cover, you can either be wholly on a bit of terrain, or you can be behind terrain, the enemy outside of free, and a straight line between your base and their base goes over the terrain. So if you're stood behind a piece of terrain, you can get cover. You don't have to be in it. You also have changes to garrisoning. So they have a thing called defensible terrain. I will literally just go to it. Like it's because it's easier to explain it. So terrain, and that's movement 17 terrain. So this is what I mean about cover. So on here you can see this like pillar, so they would get cover from this. Obviously that's a fairly obvious example. This guy wouldn't get cover, this one would, because it's wholly on. This isn't wholly on, so it's fairly straightforward. It's not much different than it is now, only this is kind of a new change. Defensible terrain is like they're basically garrisonable things. Okay, so, and you've got wildwoods which block line of sight with a 3-inch, so basically like area terrain in the old rules. So defensible terrain's a bit different. Okay, so garrisoning has changed slightly. So before you had this weird thing that when you garrison a building, you've got to be wholly within 6 of it, and your unit goes into that building or thing. What they've done now is they've said if it's a garrisonable piece of terrain, nobody can finish their move on it, even if a flyer. Okay, the only way you can stop your move on it is to occupy it by garrisoning in it. A flyer can move over it, but a normal movement infantry can't move up and over either. So it's almost impassable, like the old impassable. If you garrison the garrison the structure, then what happens is you can do that even if there's an enemy within 3. So normally in the old rules, you wouldn't be able to do that if there was an enemy unit like 2.5 inches away from it. You wouldn't be able to garrison it. So you'd have this weird situation where you've got this big blobby piece of terrain. They stand some models near it. You can't occupy it. Now you can occupy that if you garrison it, and they just immediately get drawn into combat with you because the base of the terrain counts as your unit. There's limits on how many can fill it and how you leave it. It's not that interesting. It's kind of the same as it is now. So just some changes on there. So it's kind of cool. So Blood Knights.
We are also back to just 6 different types of terrain, and they are the originals.
Oh, you mean for the chart? Yeah. So
yeah, not 12, 6 now, and it's as was basically.
Everyone's gonna be like pausing this because I'm flicking through all the pages. I don't think I've got that on the picture actually. Oh, there we go. So yeah, you've got the damned terrain, arcane terrain, inspiring, deadly, mystical, sinister. So it's back to those. So in the new game, there's a thing called battle packs. So in the core rules, there is a battle pack for match play. Okay. And that tells you all the rules that change. So, for example, the Conquest of Generals battle pack is in the match play section at the back of the book. And this is where you have here, where it says battalions, You can include core battalions in your army, but cannot include War Scroll battalions. So that's where the rule is. No, Ryan, I'll get onto it. I'll talk about the enhancements in a sec. So basically, the spell enhancement is every wizard gets to pick a spell from the lore. If you take that enhancement again, every wizard would know 2 spells from the choices they can have.
Which is pretty cool if you got a good lore. Or
Yeah.
it's a great way to get like mega levels of redundancy throughout your army. You could have,
Yeah, I'm sure Tien, there's actually been a lot of this floating around in Discords and stuff I've seen, so I'm sure it will happen. You still want to get the book, it's lovely. So
it's gorgeous.
we talked about battle tactics. So this is the match play section. So obviously, like, you've got your reinforcement under strength unit. So I've got distracted from Blood Knight, so I apologize. We'll go there in a sec. So someone's like biting. They're like, God, tell me about Blood Knights. They're good now. That's all you need to know.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, amazing. So you've got this reinforced units at 2,000 points, 0 to 4. Okay, so you're gonna get 4 reinforcement points. So if you take 2 units of 30 skeletons, they start at 10. You pay 1 to go to 20, another 1 to go to 30. That's so you're at 10. 1 to go to 20, 1 to go to 30. The other unit is again 2. That's 4 points. That's all your reinforcement. That means no other unit in your army can be above minimum strength size. This is why the coherency thing's not so big a deal, because you just don't have big units. Like, generally, you have a couple, and the ones you pick, you won't pick the ones that will be hampered by being in a big unit. Blood Knights. So I want to talk a little bit about the grand strategies. So these are the ones that are on your army roster. So here's the example of the ones in the match play pack. So you've got Sever the Head. When the battle ends, you complete it if no heroes from your opponent's starting army are on the battlefield. Vendetta. When the battle ends, you complete this when the model chosen by your opponent's general has been slain and the model chosen by your general has not been slain. Or Hold the Line. When the battle ends, you complete this if there are any battle line units from your starting army on the battlefield. Yes, Gabe, Ard boys at the moment, they're size 5, right? So yeah, you could 15 would be maximum. But if they've got a 1-inch reach and a 32mm base, I don't know why you'd want a big unit, because apparently they don't work anymore. Then you've got battle tactics. So in the battle tactics, you've got these there's ones you can choose. There's 6. So obviously one of them you wouldn't use because there's only 5 rounds. So you've got Break the Spirit. Pick one enemy unit wholly within your opponent's territory. Complete this tactic. The unit's destroyed during this turn. So these are picked basically in your hero phase. So you that's just when you do it. You say, right, I'm going to pick Conquer. Pick one objective mark on the battlefield that your opponent controls. You control that objective at the end of the turn. You get that point. And in the game, for example, this is Frontal Assault. They're worth quite a lot. So in a turn, this is just 3 objectives in the middle. You'd get 1 point if you control an objective, 1 if you control 2 or more, and 1 if you control more than your opponent. So there's 3 maximum. And then there's 2 for your battle tactics. So it's actually worth quite a lot. And the grand strategy is 3 points. So those grand strategies and the battle tactics are really important. So those are those things, right? So let's just talk about this move thing. I know the chap's going mental, but I can't. So yeah, MSU Relian for sure. So the reason Blood Knights work in AOS 3. So none of you probably remember that. You can feel free to pause the video at these points. I'll do it on purpose, just quickly. And there's only 3 in the back, Gabe. So in that match play pack, obviously there's a lot of narrative and other ones, but yeah, those ones. Under strength units in match play, you can't really take them, and they cost the same points. So
yeah, it's just ignore it. It's not particularly relevant.
So the reason that Blood Knight rule works now is retreat, normal move, and run are distinctly different things. So in the old edition, when you said a move, a pile-in's a move, a charge is a move is a move, a run is a move, a retreat is a move. Now it's a retreat or a normal move. And because the Blood Knight rule says they make a normal move, that is not a retreat. So what they can do is they can, from combat, move a bit on top of what they're fighting and back out of combat, do the mortal wounds. That's not a retreat. Then they can charge and get all their lance bonuses. So Blood Knights, if you can get hold of any, are really good. So I'm still waiting. So that rule now works. So I know when they came out, everyone was saying, "Oh, they don't work." You know, they do. It's just they didn't work in 2. So it was obviously written for free. So there you go. So Blood Knights work. There you go. Can you move halfway
Definitely
up
work.
stuff? That's a good question. I can't remember. I think you can. So
yeah, I think you can, because you have to be able to get on top of it if your move doesn't allow you to get on top of it in one go without running. So
yeah,
I think you just have to. That's always going to be a thing, I think. Otherwise, you end up with unscalable walls or something.
yeah. I believe it's in there. That's how I've been playing it anyway. I might be wrong, but you know, it's
yeah, as per that diagram.
There you go. So
all right, so should we,
that's right, Pharaoh.
what are
You
we
can't run and retreat. So if you retreat, you got to move normally.
So what are we jumping to next? Can I quickly talk about the triumphs?
Yeah. So we talk about enhancements.
Yeah.
It's probably a good thing. This is an enhancement, right?
Yeah, I think
We'll start with triumphs. Then we can go into
it's
more.
Absolutely. So the enhancements in general, guys, it's pretty easy to get lost in all of the enhancements you've got access to and your core battalions, because you could have one army and then literally have like 15 ways to build it. So I've been through this. I was trying to make it work. So speaking from personal experience, there is quite a lot of stuff available here. Now, you've got 3 triumphs. They're not the old ones. If I recall correctly, you can, and these do not need a general around or a hero around to do. You've got make something immune to battle shock. You've got +1 to wound. Yes, +1 to wound. And you've got a
Reroll charge.
Reroll charge, yeah. So if you are going to go for them, though, it is a bit of a gamble, because especially if you're going to pay for an extra one, you only get it if your list is lower points than your opponent. So you know, you could have thought you went balls deep with your 1950 list, and you rock up to a table with your 2 triumphs, and you're expecting to go on your you know, your big unit with +1 to wound and make sure it gets its charge or have means battle shock or whatever, and your opponent's got 1945, and then you cry. But yeah, triumphs are, I think there's definitely some lists that are going to build around them, particularly as getting 1 to wound on something without needing a hero even close or even a champion or anything like that is pretty amazing. Battleshark is exactly the same.
There is one change, which is quite subtle.
Is there?
You don't get +1 bravery
Okay.
for having 10 models in the unit anymore.
Okay. Yeah, fair point.
But basically, it's the same. The main difference really is that you can't use Inspiring Presence more than once. That makes the Indomitable Triumph very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, Stubble, it's not a leak fest. It's from the official book, and I'm allowed to do it.
Yeah, we've been given permission and specifically checked,
and we've been
and
sent
double
a sample,
checked,
and we've double checked, and we're all good as of 1 minute past midnight. So there you go.
By pay for an extra one, do you mean by selecting a core battalion that grants one? We do.
Yes.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah,
Brilliant. So some of the battalions, namely the Warlord or the Command Entourage, Warlord gives you 1 period, an option of an enhancement, and the Command Entourage, you get the choice between a CP and an enhancement.
Halsey, I don't know about Skane, because I think they've got their own rule in their battle tome about bravery with units. It's just there is a generic rule that gave you bonus bravery. So obviously there'll probably be FAQs.
Are you allowed to post a link to your picks? No. We won't be doing that.
I'm not going to be giving a PDF out of the stuff. I'm just showing it on the live stream.
Bloody hell, guys.
Come on.
Cheeky.
So core battalions. So these are the battalions. So you've got the warlord one. And this means basically, if you see down here, commander is a leader. Any shape, size, monstrous, non-monstrous, doesn't matter. Sub commander is less than 10 wounds. That's the 10 wounds coming into play. So that means you've got to have
Yep.
one. You can have two. You've got to have two. You can have four. This is a unit that is not artillery, leader, or behemoth. So anything really. Got to have one. Can have two. Now, there's no benefit for filling this up, by the way. You don't get anything. The only benefit...
heroic abilities tend to not affect mounts. Sorry, just jumping in there, seeing that one pop up a couple of times.
The only reason you would fill up is some of these give you a command ability for free on the units in the formation. So, like Vanguard gives you Swift once per battle. One unit from the battalion can get at the double or forward to victory without a command being issued and without a command point being spent. So that could be used if you want more units that could potentially use that. Then you would fill that battalion up if you wanted to.
Yeah, and with the battle regiment, of course, if you plow your entire army into that, your entire army is one drop. I'm not sure if we said, but one drop now is one drop. It's not optional.
Yeah.
The moment you have deployed the first unit from that core battalion, you have to then immediately deploy the rest. So one drop is one drop. So it is, it's a positive, and it is also a negative. Now it's not half your cake and eat it, which I really like.
Yeah, so it says here one drop deployment. It says if a core battalion has the unified icon, then after you set up, you must set up all other units one after the other. You're not allowed to set up units that are not part of the battalion until all the units have been set up. So you can't drip feed and then decide like you can at the moment.
If practically in terms of using these, you can use the same one multiple times. That was the first question that I asked Russ when I opened the page. And you can fit in as many as you can fit into your army. Don't think you have to pay for them or anything like that. So
no.
Let's say you want your entire army to be able to re-roll its charges without having a hero anywhere near it. You could take Vanguard 5 times.
Hey,
if you have 5 heroes and 5 troop units. So yeah. Oh, hello there, Reese.
Blast in the past.
I do. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, I think if a unit counts as it's not a behemoth, it's not a behemoth. So I think there's a thing about behemoths that are battle line being battle line, not behemoths. So this is the battlefield role, not monster keyword. So, you know. The Warlord battalion's really good because not only do you get an enhancement, you also get once per game, once per battle, when you receive command points to start your hero phase, you can receive an extra one. So I really like Warlord. So double Warlord is possible because it's 6 heroes, but you need to have 6 heroes.
Yeah. I think Warlord plus X is frequently going to be doable for a lot of people. I quite like how little heroes are really important in a load of these, aren't they? I really like how they come into it so often. It's if you're trying to do a list that is like 2 zombie dragons and blood knights, you're gonna have a very weird time trying to make it work in anything other than battle regiment, for example. And you'd have to do that twice. So yeah, I just, it adds another layer of things, and some armies fit very neatly into it, and then other armies you have if you really wanted to go down one route, you might have to end up fiddling around, which I think is a much more interesting version of like, oh well, I'm taking that unit I didn't want to because this battalion's bent and it says I win on it or whatever, which is nice.
Yeah, we don't have the GHB, we can't talk about it, and in terms of points, there's obviously no points in the core book, so there you go.
Yeah.
So, enhancements. So,
all right then.
Strap yourselves in.
This gets complex, doesn't it?
I got confused with this. So, with the enhancements, when you pick an army, you get one of every enhancement. So that means that you get command trait, artifact of power, spell laws, prayer scriptures, mount traits, triumphs, and one or more set of unique enhancements. So they're basically like it works now. So effectively, if you build a list now, it works exactly the same. It's just it's been put in the book. So, for example, command trait, it says you can pick one command trait, give it to your general. You can never pick more than one, and command traits can only be given to a general that is a hero. So even if you take an extra enhancement, you pick command trait, you can't. So you can't have more than one. No, Tien, the leader in the it just doesn't have any restriction. It just means the sub commanders have to have less than 10 wounds. So there's one of your leaders could be a monster. It could still be a guy with 5 wounds. It doesn't matter. It's just a leader is the restriction. So if they're a leader, they're in that group.
And Dale, they don't. You have missed it. Certain battalions will allow you an enhancement. That's what we're discussing currently.
So when you get the Artifact of Power enhancement, you pick one artifact, give it to a hero in your army, and you can't have more than one artifact of power, which is no different it is now. Spell laws. So when you take the spell law enhancement, you can pick one spell for each wizard in your army from any of the laws available. You can pick spells from different laws for different wizards. Each wizard knows a spell that you pick for them in addition to any they know. So it says here, taking a spell enhancement allows every wizard to know one spell from a law. So you get the enhancement once, but every wizard is same as it is now, technically. Hey, James. I was like, who's that? And I was like, oh, I don't recognize that name.
Not his name.
I know. Hey, Domus. So prayer scriptures. So that's the same. So every priest gets a prayer from a scripture, okay? The Triumph Byron's already covered, but basically you put a Triumph on your army list, so you pick it, and if you're less points than your opponent, you can use it. So you could buy a second Triumph, but if their army's less points than you can't use it. So, you know, it's
already
gamble,
happened
right?
to me.
Then you've got the sub-faction allegiance abilities. So some armies have what they've done is they've clarified like what is a faction, what is a sub-faction. So when you pick your army, where is it? It's in this bit. Should have made some more notes. It is quite late for me, so I do apologise if I'm all over the place. But the shows in the week go into detail in every section and give you a bit more structure. So watch those.
Kilyox named models still can't take artifacts, and yes, it's already been asked as well. They can't have command abilities either. They are unique.
Traits, you mean?
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, so just getting the right word. So, pitch battle profiles. So you've got this box, and it says number 1, Stormcast Eternals. This is your faction, okay? And then you have your war score, unit size points, your battlefield role notes. So it's basically exactly the same. The difference really is that in allies, there's no mention of 25 1 in 4. It just says it's just a points limit. So it doesn't say that you, like before there was this weird thing that it was 1 in every 4 could be an ally and it was 400 points. That I can't find that anywhere. So I don't really use allies a lot. So Byron's probably more of a savant on that than I am. As it says here, allied units 0 to 400. So
yeah, I think I might have found somewhere where it's it says 1 in 4 last night, but 27.1.
Oh, have you ruled me with a
units.
number point already?
Excuse me. I think
yeah,
you'll
1 in
find
4.
that
There you go.
according
It's just on a different page.
27.1.
Oh, Byron's booked me already. Damn it.
1 in 4 units in your army can be allies. Allied units are ignored when determining if units are in the army.
So it is still there then.
In the armies.
There you go.
Bunch.
It's just in a different place.
It is still there. Something that may have changed, and don't quote me on this because there's quite a lot there to take in at once, is I believe you can dump those guys into your core battalions, and that that is different to something that has existed in the game so far. Doesn't say you can't anywhere that I have found. So Russ can
I don't take
tell me if I'm right or wrong on that.
I'm a purist. I can't take it. I don't know.
Oh, I've already tried to find all the bullshit.
I'm not going to do it now because I would have to read through all the minutia. But this is the fun, right? So,
oh no, yeah, exactly. Everything's new. It's exciting.
Exactly. One thing that's quite important in here, this Conquest of Generals battle pack, it says all of the units in your army must from a faction. Okay, and if we go back to where is it?
Allied units are ignored when determining if the units in the army are from a single faction.
Yeah, but that's not what I was going to talk about. I was going to go back to the faction rule, where it tells you the storm card. This box here.
Yep.
So it says that pitch battle protocol goes into tables. Each one contains pitch battle protocol for one faction. So in match play, this is a faction. So unless there is going to be a chaos faction or an order faction, which has every single war scroll in it in the General's Handbook, that might mean that those Grand Alliance armies are gone.
Oh yeah, looks like that's the case. That's right. I'll just change my name.
Obviously,
remove that.
Byron Ord is no longer Byron Order.
Oh, I'll remove the R off my name.
Yeah, I should have added it off the stream, shouldn't I?
Saying in L, you can't. Glasses push up. Oh yes.
I think I'll find actually.
And
yeah. So enhancements are those things, and someone said, can allied wizards know spell laws? So I don't know.
Currently, no reason to believe not, but there could be a 27.1 for that.
Obviously,
also.
like spell laws for your army are generally from the faction spell law, and they don't have the keyword to know spells from that law. So, because your army's laws, but there are generic ones. So, you've got universal artifacts, command traits, and a spell law. So, flaming weapon, it gives you +1 damage to your attacks. So Nagash is happy.
It does on one of your melee weapons, doesn't it? Because I got well excited about it, and then got less excited about it.
It's one weapon. Pick one of the melee weapons. We just pick the big sword.
Bad times.
Nash.
Oh yeah, Nagash is fine. I was thinking of Exalted Seeker Chariots.
Oh, go away! Just stop it with your breaky gaminess.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I've got to do something to make my book work.
What's the Nash? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. One of the good things about like reinforcement points is that like summoning a big unit is actually quite good because it doesn't cost you reinforcement. So like you always get a reinforced unit for summoning, so it's quite cool.
If only my entire army hadn't died before I got the opportunity to do that, it would be fantastic.
What is a ward save?
Should we?
Yeah. Should we talk about?
Yeah, should we cover it now? So a ward save is exactly what you would think it is the save you get after your armor save. You only get to take one of them. So let's say for some reason you have a 5-up and a 6-up ward save. You would be choosing to use the 5-up. You can't do one, then the other.
Yeah.
Nagash cannot take an enhancement. So can you explain how that spell could appear on Nagash?
I probably can't then. I'm just getting excited.
I think.
Can
you take?
Where's the unique restriction on enhancements?
I think you take it for your army, the spell, don't you, or something like that?
No, it's your wizard would know, but I don't. But I don't think. I think unique characters could still pick spells from laws. So I don't think unique has any bearing on it. I'm just trying to work out. Oh, unique enhancements. No, it's unique models. Where would it be?
Eyes are stretching us, aren't they?
Enhancements cannot be given to unique units or allied units unless otherwise noted. In addition, artifacts or power command traits that affect attacks made by friendly models do not affect attacks made by their mounts unless otherwise noted. Spell laws. Each time you can pick one spell from each wizard in your army from the spell laws available to that wizard. Each wizard knows the spell that you pick for in addition to other spells they know. It does not say. Oh, I don't know.
That looks like it's the first gap in the rules, actually. That one. Damien, let's talk about so-called while Russ does some research because I'm really, really enthusiastic about this. Oh, 27.3.1. Domus just said, bloody hero that he is. So Sigvald did get a bit better, I believe, because he can now heal himself. He's got high bravery. So you can, in your oh damn it, I forgot the name of the phase.
Hero phase.
When you're deciding,
You do
what's the
heroic
thing
actions
called where you can heroic
to
action?
recover.
That's the one. So
you could do it in both yours and their hero phase, right?
exactly, yeah. So your little 6 wounds with your 3-up save followed by your 4-up ward, getting to heal them back reliably, particularly in Slanesh where you could be healing D3 from the spell if you've got a wizard within range anyway. He's definitely a bit more reliable than he was, and also just being able to give him a flat +1 save is wonderful too. And you could indeed give him +2 to his save from shield and all out defense, and then if you wanted to go crazy, you could be in Lloyd Hayes giving him +3 as well.
Yeah, I can't see it. I don't think you can take them on unique. So
interesting.
Pass, don't know. Interesting. We don't know.
Yeah, that seems to be, that's an oddity. Maybe that one is going to be something for a clarification.
You'll probably find that a lot of the stuff that's out will need an FAQ to bring it in line with the core rules as they are now. And obviously we haven't seen that, so it might get tidied up there. Yeah, I know.
It does say every
also
wizard.
says
That's
that
a good
unique
point.
guys can't have it, so it's
we have it.
Pass. I've always thought that you could, regardless, because it's like you say, it says every wizard. That's how I've always thought it was. So going through the minutiae of the words, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Ghost, you cannot have a ward save and a wound shrug. They are one and the same. Yep. And the name ward is for after saves now. 5+ ward generic artifact is super nice. It is Shelty. Amulet of Protection is a fantastic option, especially on those bigger characters, 12 wounds or more, 10 wounds or more. There's that may as well be 2 or 3 extra wounds. And if anyone can heal themselves in addition to the healing that people have access to generically now in the new rules, then of course you can get a lot more equity from them.
Okay. I want to talk about some stuff that's easy to miss. So early on, there's a thing about abilities, okay? And there's one thing that makes quite a big difference, which is this 1.6.4 triggered abilities. So
yes,
if the effects of some abilities are applied when a dice roll triggers them, for example, the effect ability might be a modified hit roll of attack as a 6. The triggered ability is applied immediately, so it might be you score 2 hits, on a 6 to hit. It says if 2 or more effects are triggered by the same roll, only one effect is applied, and the player who made the roll picks. So, why is that important? So, if I'm playing Slanesh and I'm playing against a Nurgle army with Witherstave, Witherstave says re-roll 6s. But Slanesh have a rule, which is when you roll a 6 to hit on a Header Knight unit, you score 2 hits. So, I roll a 6 to hit. There's 2 abilities trigger. One is I get 2 hits. The other one is I have to re-roll it. I'm rolling the dice. I pick. I get 2 hits. Witherstave does nothing. So this is quite a big deal because any army, like Cruel Boys, because we know what their allegiance ability is, which is Venom Encrusted Weapons, on a 6 to hit does a mortal wound. You cannot... If there's an enemy's got an ability like if you roll a 6 to hit, re-roll it, that won't do anything because you're always rolling your hit dice. You're going to decide, right? And also, if you've got 2 things that trigger off a 6 to hit, you'd have to pick which one you want. So I think like Gristlegore, Terrorgeist Bite. So if you rolled a 6 to hit, it does mortal wounds, and you would roll an extra wound because you get an extra hit. You wouldn't. You choose whether you want an extra hit or you want the D6 mortals.
There's a lot of this in Nurgle as well. I think you can trigger a mortal wound and also an extra rend, and you'd have to pick which one you wanted, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Rip bone splitters. Yes. Yes.
So I want to talk then also about another thing, which is to do with sequencing in the combat phase. So everyone's favorite topic, activation wars.
Is this our lovely little table that makes the world make sense?
Yes. So 12.4,
Oh, I loved it.
strike last.
So down for this.
So this is quite important because basically this kind of overwrites some of the abilities back at the beginning of the book. So it basically says that you do not apply the rules from 1.6.1 to 1.6.3. You use these rules, okay? So it says if a strike first effect applies to any units, those units fight before all other units fight. If a strike last applies, then you fight after all other units fight. So yeah, it's fairly straightforward. It makes sense. Now there's a bit of difference here. So if strike first effect applies to units from both players' armies, you alternate, starting with the player whose turn it is. So you almost take every unit that strikes first, goes in its own pool, and then you alternate. And then everything that fights normally alternates, and then everything that fights last alternates. Now the important thing is start of the combat phase abilities go before you activate strike first. So before, what you'd have is you would go, right, it's my go, I charged you, I got an ability that means I go first, you've got an ability that you activate at the start that, I don't know, gives you a bonus save or something like that. They wouldn't get to use that ability because you get to strike them first because they both happen at the start. Now what's happened is the start of the combat phase abilities are before you fight. So if you if you go, right, we're going to basically go into that phase and say, like, look, we're gonna use our buffs first, then we're gonna fight. Even if your buff is to fight first, you still get the other person gets to put their defensive buffs on or whatever if it's at the start of the phase. So it kind of interrupts what we're used to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But there's a nice set of rules to apply it to it, though.
Yeah, and it's nice, right? Because basically it means that you're not getting that, oh, it's my go, therefore I get everything, and you don't get to use your abilities. Yeah. So that's quite a big change. I quite like that one. It's kind of these kind of things are like really like they make more of an impact in my head than like coherency. Like they're a bigger deal, right? So like this is the pile-in bit in here. The change is where it says unit, not model. So that word there, that change there, makes that difference. Should we talk about command abilities?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, yes, Double, actually, yes. If you check out our page.
What's HNC?
Higher National something, I guess. I don't know what HNC is. Some sort of education thing, I imagine.
Okay, yeah, do check out the Facehammer Patreon, and
yeah,
literally, we will be doing that.
The Facehammer Academy will be a thing, so we'll make it. So command abilities. So we talked about how you get command points. So his box here. So you got these in the book. You've got these little pink box outs. So a higher national certificate. I knew it stood for something. It was H and D, H and C. Yes, I knew it was something. So command points allow you to use command abilities. Obviously, you receive command points at the start of the battle round after priority is determined. So you get 2 if you go second, 1 if you go first, which you already know. If your general's on the battlefield to start the hero phase, you receive 1. So that's in both. If my hero phase, if Byron's general's alive and my general's alive, we both get 1, even though it's my go. Okay. At the end of the battle round, any command points that have not been used are lost. Okay, and we've obviously got the heroic action to give you 1. But using command abilities, so basically, unit champions can issue, heroes can issue within 12, generals wholly within 18, totems wholly within 18. And basically, it says in here that you must spend a command point, pick a friendly model to issue, and 1 friendly unit to receive. The models that can issue are as below, and then it says a command ability will say when it's used what effect it will have the unit that receives it. A model cannot issue more than 1 in the same phase. A unit cannot receive more than in the same phase. In addition, you cannot use the same command ability more than once in the same phase, even for different units. So that is the restriction that kind of hasn't really been floating around much. It's been hinted at. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's huge. We covered it earlier, but you can use the same one multiple times, so you could defend yourself use all-out defense in the combat
only
phase
in different
and in
phases.
the shooting phase, if you wanted, but you can't use it in the same phase.
Yeah, so you could use because those ones can be used in 2 phases.
Yeah.
So, but these are the ones that are in the book, so I'm going to go through all of them. So you've got Rally in the hero phase. So start the hero phase. You receive the command. The unit that gets it must be 3 inches away from all enemy units. You can't be in combat, basically. You roll 1 dice for each slain model from the unit. For every 6, you can return a model to the unit. So obviously there's
Make sure you leave space.
Stringing out on that. But what's quite good in this, and this is a bit you probably won't notice, it doesn't say your hero phase, it says start the hero phase. So in your opponent's hero phase, you can rally your units. So if you've had your go, you've charged something, they hit you first, they did a load of damage, you wipe them out, you've got a depleted unit, it's not near anyone, they have their go, you could go, I'm going to rally and spend it, and then rally the unit. So it's quite an important ability. It can be quite big because you pop a couple 6s, you could get some multi-wound models back. So I played against a playtester who had 10 Chaos Knights. I had killed 7 of them, and he popped 3 6s. He got like basically 9 wounds worth of models back. So wasn't to feel bad at all. And yes, I was using an OBR, so my heart bleeds. Also got movement phase, so you got at the double. So this is basically when you run, you move 6. So difference is this: you don't like you roll the dice and make it a 6. You have to do it before you roll make the roll. Yes, Tyler, because you get 1 at the start of the battle round, and they get 1 in your hero phase. So,
and if you go first, they'll have 2.
Yeah, exactly the same as it does with everyone else, Eric. How many dice for what, coach? The rally, how many models have you lost from the unit? So if you had a unit of 15 guys and 10 were dead, you'd roll 10 dice. So it's basically whatever's missing out the unit. On a 6, they come back. So yeah, if you've got a unit of 6 Gargants, do they come in 3s or 2s? 2s, I think. But anyway, you could have. Will they come in 1s? I don't know. Whatever they are. If you roll a 6, you get a whole Gargant back. There you go.
Basically, I think particularly relevant for anything like Dracos or stuff like that. That's a pretty, rolling 2 dice and having a 1 in 3 chance of bringing back 7 wounds of 2-up save or whatever is fantastic.
Oh, Gary, I'm not even answering that question. When you know the answer to that, you can tell me. So, like, let's not talk about horrors, honestly. I really wish they'd just put those in the bin. Sorry, let's carry on. So at the double, we talked about that, redeploy. So this is used in the enemy movement phase. So after unit finishes a normal move, run or retreat, the unit that received the command must be within 9 of that enemy unit, more than 3 from all enemy units. You can make a D6-inch move with the unit that received the command, but must finish the move 3 inches away from all enemies. So basically what this allows you to do, if you move a unit and you're within 9 of one of their units, they can redeploy and move D6 inches of that unit. So it's a reactive thing. So you might move a unit within 9 and you sort of say, do they want to do it? And they're like, no. Then they might want to be able to move a second unit for them to move, but then you could just not move that unit within 9 and they can't activate it. So it allows you to kind of move backwards and also allows you to like move forward onto objectives and stuff. So like before, you had that situation where you'd have like an objective and you'd have like 5 models just within range and then a load more models near it, and they would go, I've got a unit of 6 like cavalry and I'll just poke the noses and have 1 more than you. What you can do now is go, well, you finished your move now, yeah, and you've got 6 in range, I'll put redeploy, move the unit D6, move more into range, I now keep it. So it kind of stops that kind of shenanigans where you're retreating and just like standing off each other looking at the objective, like at the max range. So it's one of those things. Obviously, I can't tell you about OBR because the General's Handbook FAQ is not out. So that's the movement phase. So in shooting phase, shooting phase and combat phase, there's a couple, but anyway, we'll go into the charge phase. Okay, so let's go straight to the charge phase. So you've got the reroll charges, not that exciting. So Unleash Hell. So this one, a lot of people talked about how this affects the shooting meta, or that it makes shooters very powerful. So basically it says you use the command ability after an enemy unit finishes a charge move. The unit that receives the command must be within 9 of that enemy, and more than 3 from all other enemy units. So you can't be in combat, but you can be in combat of the unit that just charged you. Okay. So the unit that receives the command can shoot in the phase, but when it does, you must subtract 1 from hit rolls. It can only target a unit that made the charge move. Okay. Now, because we know we can only do Unleash Hell once per phase. Okay. So the way to get round this, let's take the humble Fellbat. Okay.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Well, it's just a good
Perfect
example. Right. A for wings.
Yeah, it is cheap, fast.
So
yeah.
they've got a unit of shooters. You move your Fellbats up and you charge straight into them. They got 2 choices. One, they don't unleash hell on the Fellbats. The Fellbats probably don't do anything and get killed in combat. But if they unleash hell on the Fellbats, they kill the Fellbats, but they don't get to unleash hell again, and nor does any other unit. The unit that then you charge into their army, into their combat unit nearby, they can't stand and shoot at because either they've already used it or they're in combat. So fast, chaffy units that can charge over stuff into the shooters with small bases are going to be really important because basically they can stop units unleashing hell where you want to shoot. And because the game goes into this MSU stuff and having lots of small units, any unit, Black Knights, anything. So anything that can basically get into combat with the shooters easily at range can shut the Unleash Hell, which will stop another unit from doing it. So you've got to be a bit careful how to play that. We're going an hour and 20. We're still going. No worries. So all out attack, all out defense. So basically these two are used in either the shooting or the combat phase. One is +1 to hit. One is +1 to save. Obviously you can't have the both on the same unit in the same phase. So you can't go all out attack and all out defense on the same unit in the combat phase because you can only get one. You obviously can't all out attack on 2 units because you've already used it, and you can't all out defense on more than a single unit. So there's some massive restrictions in that. So a lot of times, particularly when you have conversations, I'll be going, I'll do this, and I put all out attack and all out defense on them. It's like, yeah, but you can't have both, and you can only do it once. You've already used it over there. So as you play games, this theme's really good. I get +1 save. It's great, and don't get me wrong, it is good. But actually, you can never really put it everywhere you want. And one of the good things about playing free is making your opponent like make that decision. I don't know. I think you played some games as well, Byron, haven't you? I don't know how you found the sort of the command point stuff.
It's pretty. There's a lot of it. So I think for the first few games, you're gonna realize the ones that you should have done and the ones that you've forgotten quite fast. But it makes a huge difference, and it's nice to have something to do in your opponent's turn. Like it's just it's just such a big deal there. The using your +1 save wisely is hard, I think. And then the biggest one that I got caught out by is not having multiple people able to re-roll a charge. Actually, I found that huge. Like that is so big. I cannot overstate how much of a difference that makes.
That's why having
the
core battalion that allows you to do it where it doesn't count as being issued means you could do it twice in that turn.
Exactly, yeah. Or like the Castelli trait, I believe it is, where you get reroll charges wholly within 12 of your general.
Mm-hmm.
Like that used to not sound sexy. Now that sounds obscene. So yeah, I found it really interesting, really nice, and it does give you a lot of options.
Some of the stuff you want to look at is like command abilities that persist over phases, stuff that abilities that give you rerolls or command ability like effects, spells that do the same as well. So
yeah, I think so. And just if you think your army's going to need them, then obviously you need multiple ways to make CPs if at all possible. So you should be prioritizing that, because otherwise you're going to run out pretty fast.
Yeah, and again, it's a precious resource, and anyone who's played OBR knows how managing your relentless discipline is really important. It's no different.
It's fun though. Yeah.
Oh, I like it. It's one of the. That's why I love OBR. Inspiring Presence. Use this command ability to start the Battleshark phase. Unit receives a command does not have to take a Battleshark test. So obviously, you only do it once per phase. So if you've got multiple units need to take a Battleshark test, only one of them is going to be all right. So it's important, right, to make your opponent have multiple units that need to take bravery or Battleshark tests, I should say. So.
Brad's apparently been failing charges according to him and not failing charges according to Sean.
So Stubby, the thing you said, I foresee deep strikes at 9 inches redeploy. That is not finishing a move. That is a setup. So you cannot redeploy off of a setup. So if you've got something that allows you to teleport close to someone, they cannot redeploy.
Yeah, you don't get an opportunity to respond to it.
Tyler, priests only get to use one prayer they know, regardless of how many they know. So you might know multiple, but you can only use one. So things like they've also restricted prayers like spells. They basically work like spells. So if you play Bloodbound, you can't blood boil 3 times because you've cast the same prayer already. So you can't cast blood boil 3 times, whereas before you could. And then you could do your Rafax, and then you could do your brazen brass arm or whatever it's called.
Is it true that all units fight and models die at the end of the...
No.
Oh, I don't even know what that question means.
No, that doesn't sound... That's not true.
It's true that at the end of the round, your entire table's wiped.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. So like I've never seen that. That's bizarre. But obviously like there's a lot of rules. It's like you obviously notice the difference from 4 pages to
No, my blood microwave, sorry.
What?
I think a Bloodbound player is very upset at the lack of
because of the
things going up.
The altar and then the multiple things. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, Berserk, you've made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, Slaughter Priests. But I don't... There is other things you can do with them, so it's not so bad. So... yes, Frank, there is a rule. You pick a model in the unit to be a wizard, and that's the model that you cast from and all the rest of it. So, yes.
I do not think Ripcorn is true. I think Corn are actually going to be pretty tasty here.
Yeah, they've got some really good abilities as well. So, like,
yeah,
it's really good. So, obviously, there's a lot of questions still flying. I think we just go to whatever people want to ask about while we're still here for a bit.
Yeah, what are people the most interested in? Do they want to know about building lists or
do you want to see the War Scrolls
phases?
For the box set? What do you want to like? Are you interested in the War Scrolls and what they do? I can tell you about them. So wait for the chat to catch up because we're on a little bit of a delay.
Yeah,
but
I wonder how many people want to hear about how exciting it's going to be to get Nagash to. How many spells does he get? Is it 8?
What, Nagash?
Is it
casts? You mean?
Yeah.
It's 8. I think.
Yeah.
Because one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people want to know just how fun it's going to be to run into someone with 8 arcane bolts powered up. Flying rule changes? No. Basically, I think.
No.
Yeah, as was. Can get a
Bellacore
tiptoe
points.
page through for all the screen cappers. You cannot.
Whatever he is now.
Yeah, he's a recent release, so that endless spell rules.
And because I can't tell you about what is the new edition because we're not talking about points. So
the endless spell rules, Opossum, just wait till the stream's finished, then scroll back to the bit where we talked about it. There's quite a lot of changes to the magic phase in general.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot share endless spells because they don't exist.
Yeah, there's no rules for there's rules of how endless spells work, but there's no rules for endless spells in the core book.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Joe, for a good question. Which armies do you think have come out well and which might struggle? So one of the first things that I said to Russ after skimming through the rules the first time is that I think Destruction as a whole and Death as a whole are maybe going to be they're going to be closer to Order and Chaos. Don't know if they'll be at parity with them, but I think both of those kind of lagged behind a little. But I think both of them have got some real game now, and particularly Destruction. I think they're assertive, and the things that caught Destruction out was often when you had a turn where you sat there and your opponent did stuff to you and you didn't get to interact. And the fact that now there is more interaction, I think, really plays nicely into Destruction's hands. Because,
and they've got a lot of the commandability generation things as well, haven't they?
Oh, they do so much. Those games that you lose as like an Iron Jaws player or whatever, it's often when you're sat there and someone's just pummeling you and you're like, I'll take that guy off, I'll take that guy off, I'll take that guy off. Being able to make brutes +1 save, piggies, 6 piggies, my god, 6 piggies. I think that's one of mine. What do you think about any armies that are going to be particularly good or worse? I guess it's worth noting that Lumineth don't get to make anyone -6 to hit, so that's lovely for the world.
Well, you can still be -4, but you only get -1. So in terms of people asking about the core book, it is a lot of beautiful, beautiful background. One of the things I will show, which I think is awesome, is this. Hopefully this will show up. This is the realm map of where the realms sit, and it's really interesting. It goes down through, it gives you the TLDR of the background. It goes through every realm. It goes through all the cities, all the maps, all the races. It is literally 200 pages of background models and lore. So basically, that's background and lore. That's rules. Okay, there's a lot of rules in there. There's pages and pages of narrative. What they call Path to Glory rules, which are excellent, and it's basically campaign system, siege rules, open play, match play, battle pack, and the rules. So it's a lot in there. So it is very, very nice. So how do I feel Nighthaunt fare? It's a weird one because they want to have lots of big units, and the reinforcement rule kind of hampers that a little bit. But they are...
They need some FAQ in, aren't they? Because of saves and stuff. Right?
Yeah, and like they can benefit from positive modifiers on the save, so obviously like they can't get negatives either, but obviously like that's quite a big deal because a lot of armies feel very Nighthaunty because you can almost like by nature of negating rend kind of make them feel ethereal. But things like Kurdos, he steals command points and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think they feel like massively worse. They just have to build some different army lists. MSU, so anything that you go running small units that are effective. Things like Myamorn, they take up like a reinforcement point. They're not battle lines, so you can't reinforce them twice. Yeah. Things like that. So I think as well, a lot of this, like the FAQs, will make a huge difference, and so will the pitch battle profiles, and we don't have those. So I would say just wait.
Don't know how that'll go yet.
Obviously, like I just wait. Don't go out make any hasty decisions or purchases until you see those. As soon as we're allowed to, or I've got those, we will obviously cover it. But we don't have that, so I would say that. Gary, is there any other rule helps coherency in combat, like things allow you? So they don't have this like 40k, I don't know what it's called, but where you get to like assist if you're within the range of it. No, nothing like that. It's the same. So the only thing is the pile-in and the fact you generally run MSU anyway. Armies like Sylvaneth, I think, come really good in the new edition.
Yeah, they're very hypermobile, lots of options.
Because you've got like tree revs. I always get this wrong. Kind of hunters are the big monstery ones, so they're 5 wounds, so they count as 2 models. Whereas like an army like Crypt Flayers, they're 4 wounds, so they only count as 1 model. Obviously, I think Flesh Eaters come off quite bad in this, if I'm honest, because Gristle Gore doesn't work as well.
Commandability is but
they were command point thirsty and you do get a lot of command points, but they used to want to stack a lot of them on the same thing. You wanted to
it was
like
kind of it built up in a 1-0, wasn't it?
yeah. Blood Knights are amazing. Yeah, Soulblight. I think Soulblight are great. So
I think Soulblight are going to be tasty. Great question about whether we think 7 to 8 wound heroes like Ultharia and Sigvald, around that value, whether we're going to see them becoming a bit more popular.
Yeah,
I think yes. The fact that you can heal them is a huge difference, and so the fact that you can give them +1 save is also a massive difference. Oh, what's the my special day thing called, Russ? My finest hour.
Yeah, my finest hour.
So once again, you may give one hero +1 save and +1 to wound.
Yep,
I believe.
I think that's action.
It. As a heroic action. So that plus the ability of giving them +1 save more conventionally from Mystic Shields now, because it's +1, not reroll ones, or from All Out Defense. I think that adds up as well. That and a heal, and the fact that you can maybe run them backwards from someone or have other options like that. I think absolutely you will see them more. Not only that, but the core battalions, they need those heroes in quite a lot of the time. So I think there's multiple things kind of nudging you in that direction, which I'm super happy about. My special day, yes.
I find that I had to laugh because Les was telling me, he said that to me this morning. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, my special day. I was like, what your birthday? And he was like, no, the thing your hero does. I was like, who's your hero on your birthday? What? And he was like, no, the finest hour. I was like, oh right, yeah, the rule is called their finest hour. Right, I get it now.
Adam's just renamed it my bestest day ever. I think my bestest day ever is.
It doesn't last all day. Yes. Like only lasts a turn. It's rubbish.
My bestest turn ever.
My bestest minute. So
yeah, good point. Accounting as 2 models for objectives is good for those heroes as well. It's twice as good as it was, definitely.
I think small cheap heroes go up in stock because some of the battalions you just need those sub commanders to unlock them. So I found I was
slotting more heroes around to give the abilities off, right?
Well, I was
if you were 2 massive monsters.
Well, I kept slotting in the Rat Prince into my Death Army because he's like a 95-point little hero that
he doesn't die.
That doesn't. Yeah, he's a pain. But like, it was cool because like I was like, well, I've got. I think I dropped a Corpse Guard to put him in because I was like, I wanted 6 heroes to go double Warlord Battalion. So then I could get 2 enhancements, which allows you to start doing some really good. The Path to Glory is in the core book, but it's like lots of pages. I haven't read it in detail, and it's a lot
You've
of
come
rules.
To the wrong place.
So to give you an idea, it's like a campaign system. So you can't take like unique heroes, and you play games and you sing quests, and they give you objectives, and then you can unlock new enhancements, new territories. You have a stronghold, and the stronghold levels up. And then as you level up, you can control more territories, and the more territories, you can unlock more things. You have injury charts, veteran abilities. I will just say that the Path to Glory system is amazing. It's a lot of rules, but it's almost like Warcry. If you've played Warcry, you know the quest system in that. Turn it up to 20. It's really cool. Sam's done a really good job on it, so I would say it is definitely very exciting. I don't want to go through it all because, to be honest, like it's a lot to cover. We're more match play focused, and I think that like
it's not our speciality, but he's a talented man.
Enjoy doing it when you get the book and read it for yourself. It's really exciting. I think with its narrative, people don't necessarily care too much about the minutiae of the rules. They just want to have fun, right? So it's good. Do I think shooting and magic will dominate the game? I didn't think it dominated in the previous edition, to be honest. But shooting and magic's always going to be good. You know, it's shooting and magic. And the spells, I think, have gone up in stock purely because of them being controlled. So you can drop predatory spells early, and they become like a deterrent for your opponent in their hero phase. But likewise, magic's got more dangerous because you can miscast. There's more ways to stop spells, so priest can shut magic down as well, whereas you couldn't before, which is good. Yeah, so it's good. I think shooting is still good, but obviously boards are smaller. there's line of sight blocking terrain. You get cover saves if they trace lines over terrain. So there are ways to get more things.
All out defense as well, right?
Yeah, all out defense is a thing.
Right.
So they, you know,
huge difference. A load of people just went to 4 up instead of a 5 up, or even a 3 up. Quite big difference.
Yeah. So I would say that it's pretty cool. So I think I'd just quickly show the War Scrolls in the box set. It's probably a good idea because like it's late and
yeah,
we're gonna get to.
Why are you bringing them up? Do you think Hedonites were pointed for 3.0 given the context we have now?
No comment.
No, because the points in the book don't particularly make sense. As someone who's spent a lot of time looking at the book and they still don't make sense, in my opinion. So I would hope that some things are going to go down. Maybe a couple of things in there would go up, but yeah.
Brad, you're well on it. I'm just doing it now. So okay, so in the War Scrolls in the box, so you get a Stormcast Allegiance and Pitch Battle Profile card, which shows you their points. I'll put it up on the screen. Feel free to go back and pause it and read it all. Signs of the Storm are you basically place it to one side. They're in the Celestial realm. 1 unit for each realm unit you've got set up on the battlefield. Same as what it is now. Set up 9 away. Blaze of Glory, which was covered on the Warcom article, which allows you to do mortal wounds when you die. Basically, so you roll a dice for each wound. On a 6, they do a mortal wound at the end of the phase. This is probably where that thing is about. Do models die at the end of the phase? It's this ability is probably causing confusion. If they've got the Thunderstrike keyword, you add +1. So that's that. Then you've got the Cruel Boys ones. You've got Venom Encrusted Weapons, which is on a 6 to hit. You do mortal wounds to damage of the weapon. You've got the units in there, so you can see that on there. Night Ritchie. So War Scrolls then. Night Arcanum. It's a wizard, 3 up save, 6 wounds. A predatory spell cannot pass within move across this unit or finish a move within 3 of this model. So it's almost got this like anti-spell shield. Obviously got the Thunderstrike keyword. Blaze of Heavens is a spell on a 7. This is covered. It is basically on an 18-inch range. D3 mortal wounds. Add 2 to the range for each other Stormcast Thunderstrike unit wholly within 12. So, Scientist of the Storm. So, Night Vexler, Banner of Apotheosis. So this is the standard bearer. So obviously we know about Night Vexler with the other banners. So you've got Penitent Stormbringer and the other one no one takes. So this has got a new, obviously he's got 4 attacks, 3 render 1 damage 2. So that's a pretty good combat profile. 3 up save, 6 wounds. Banner of the Reforged. Once per battle in your hero phase, if this unit's on the battlefield, you can pick 3 Stormcast Eternal units wholly within 12. You can pick the same unit multiple times. If you pick a unit's ability, you can heal D3 wounds allocated to the unit, or if no wounds allocated, return a number of slain models that have a combined wounds characteristic of D3 or less. If you pick it twice, it's 2D3. If you pick it 3 times, it's 3D3. So what you would do is, say for example, you have like 2 wound units, you could go, I'll put D3 in there, D3 in there, D3 in there. If it's a bit like death, if wounded, you heal. If there's no wounds allocated, you could return a slain model, but only if the D3 equals the wounds characteristic or beats it, but you don't get the carryover wound. So if you roll 3 wounds, but you've only got 2 wounds model missing, you just put 1 model back. You don't put another model with 1 wound, if that makes sense. Yeah, cheers, coach. And yes, that's pretty good. And also you get the reroll charge rolls for friendly Stormcast wholly within 12, which the Vexer's always had, which is really good because obviously, like we just said about the command points, so pretty good. But that's the Banner of Apotheosis. So it's to sort of bring back Stormcasts. Yeah, they've basically realised Nagash was king, so they've decided to be. But basically, lore spoiler: Sigmar is actually Nagash, and it's all a trick. And Nagash is awesome.
Hashtag facts.
This is definitely a fact.
Tune in for more Facehammer lore.
So Vindictors. So this is the sort of the Liberator-esque unit. They've got a 3+ save on their profile, 2 wounds, 2-inch reach, which is nice. They've got 40 mil bases, 2 attacks, freeze, rend 1, damage 1. So it's a fairly good combat profile.
Yeah.
1's a prime, get +1 attack. 1's a standard, add 1 to bravery. And they've got this Storm Soul Arsenal. If the modified hit roll for an attack made with a Storm Spirit is a 6, it does 1 mortal wound on the target and the attack sequence ends. So basically, on 6s to hit, you do mortal wounds.
Really good.
So they're
Feels
really
like
good,
it could have
right?
been on wounds that would have still been good, but on hits that's a bit crazy, really.
Yeah,
Solid.
Unit is solid. I think the points
Absolutely.
are, what are they in this? It's 140 points. Bargain.
Rip Liberators, potentially, yeah.
Praetors, 3 wounds, 3 up save. So these guys have got a 1-inch reach, even though they've got a big double-handed weapon, but there you go. 3 attacks, 3, it's not just death. Freeze, rend 1, damage 2. So that's a pretty good profile. It's almost like a Retributor, right? 1's a prime, add 1 to the attacks of the halberd. Soulforged Guardians. So start the first battle round before determining who has the first turn. Pick 1 friendly Stormcast Tunnels hero on the battlefield, which this unit can be bound. Roll a dice for you, allocate a wound or mortal wound to that hero while it's within 3. On a 1 to 2, the wound or mortal wound is allocated to the hero as normal. On a 3 to 4, the wound or mortal wound is allocated to this unit. On a 5 to 6, you just negate it. So they become like a shield for your hero.
Cool.
Annihilators, I'm going to gloss over these because they've been covered and you can see the war scroll on the Games Workshop website. But basically, they've got these 2 rules. They do damage when they land. They've got 3 attacks. You can see that 2 up save, which is pretty amazing. Obviously, you could go to a 1 up if you did all out defense. You know, if you really wanted to. Pretty good. Indrasta, so obviously it's probably one everyone wants to see. 8 wounds, so she's not a big hero. 3 up save, movement of 12, flies. You got Fen Gavar, 18-inch range, 1 attack, 2s, rend 2, damage d6 as a shooting attack, which is pretty nuts. Blade of the High Heavens, 4 attacks, freeze 2s, rend 2, damage 3. Again, pretty nuts. If any enemy monsters are within 3 of this unit, add 10 to the number of wounds suffered by those monsters when determining which row on their damage table to use. So you count as having suffered 10 wounds when you fight with that monster.
Big deal, actually.
Which I think is quite a cool rule.
Yeah, it doesn't change their movement as well, which is nice.
Has a ward save of 4+.
Solid.
Once per turn in your hero phase, if these units on the battlefield, you can return 1 same model to each Stormcast Eternal unit with a wounds characteristic of 3 or less that is wholly within 12 of this unit.
Stormcast are the new undead, aren't they? It turns out.
Yeah, every turn. And it's not a command ability. That's just do it.
Tasty.
Hawk of the Celestial Skies, do not take Battleshark tests for friendly Stormcast units or Cities of Sigmar units wholly within 12. So you've got an AoE immune to Battleshock, an AoE heal, a 4-up ward save, new E monsters, a d6 damage ranged attack, and a damage-free weapon, and she flies. So she's like a prime, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. Stubble's just made 2 good points. Prime Huntress makes Manglers always their top profile and Scarbrand. That's cool.
Yeah.
Everyone else is upset and they're like, give it to me. I've got full wounds and I'm behaving like I'm in my death throes. Rock on.
So she is,
she's
for a starter set model, she's pretty crazy good.
Yeah,
to answer someone's question, the balance between the 2 stuff in the set is not good. The Stormcast should spank the Crawl Boys each and every time.
It's never been good in starter sets.
But
in
it's
Age of
not
Sigmar.
done for that. So like, you know,
Yeah.
I would suggest that if you're trying to like play the set against someone else with the set, you look at the points profiles and you modify
Making this
the points to match, because I think the orcs are a little bit less. So
John Buyer award is your after save. It's all been made to be the same thing. So it's what you think it is, dude.
Lord Imperator or Trigger, this was on the thing, so he basically lets you set up closer with a unit that's dropping from the sky. He can issue a commandability without spending a command point once per turn. Again, really good efficiency. Free up save again, decent shooting attack, damage 2, 3/3 rend. Yeah, just he's really good as a hero as well, just solidly. Yeah, I still have flashbacks to the Bloodbound versus Stormcast box set.
Yeah.
So Crawl Boys is one. We've seen this war scroll before. I did a video on it. I did make a bit of a cock up because I misread this. So this is what I was talking about the shield. So it says there, like, the save catches a killer boss with stab grot arm with a boss hacker at scare shield is 3 instead of 4. So that's not +1 save. That's a different save. So you either have the flail and the hacker, or you have the shield and the hacker. So you get 2 extra attacks if you take the flail. I like the shield. His stab grot can be used to negate your wound, but then you do use your stab grot. Yeah, and this all part of the plan. If a cruel by unit fails a Battleshark within 3, only 1 model will flee. So it's like an immune to Battleshark, but not really. So I don't know how much it costs retail, Matt. We don't know that. So
good guess though.
You could probably guess it's
its contents are comparable, so you'd assume so.
Obviously, it depends where you were in the world as well. Swamp Caller Shaman, so 6 wounds, 5 up save, 3-inch reach, 2 attacks, wizard staff, so standard. Backup stabber pot grot. Let's not worry, let's not get into combat with this guy. You've got the poison elixir, so basically it's a lot of words, but essentially you get to either go, you get to pick a unit, hold within 12, more than 3 from the enemy, and within 3. That you go, I'm going to give you an elixir or a poison. Elixir gives you +1 armor save. Poison gives you your venom encrusted weapons trait on a 5+. It's really good doing it on the shooters. You know, just TLDR. And then if you do that, you cannot cast. It's a 1-cast wizard. It's got the summon bogging mist on a 7. Add 1 to charge for any cruel boy or units on the battlefield, and subtract 1 for charge from other units. So that's table wide. It's pretty good. Killer boss on Great Nash Tooth. So 10 wounds, 3+ save. He's got 4 attacks, 3 rend 1 damage 2, and 4 attacks from the Nash Tooth, freeze -2 damage 2. He's got the all part of the plan rule, which is the same. And he's got a Savage Hound, add 1 to hit rolls made by this unit if it charges. So that's what that dude does. You've got the Merc Knob, which is probably my favourite name of a unit in a starter set ever, of the Belcher banner. 4 up save, 6 wounds, 3 attacks, freeze, rend 1 damage 2. Paracragnos, with a friendly cruel boy auric unit wholly within 12 is affected by a spell or the abilities of an endless spell, roll a dice. On a 5+, ignore the effects of the spell or the endless spell on that unit. So it's like a bubble immune to like a shrug for spells. And then we've got Breath of the Myodrakes. At the start of the combat phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3. On a 1, nothing happens. 2 to 5, they take 1 mortal wound. On a 6, they take D3 mortal wounds. Gut Rippers, 2 wounds, 5 up save, bravery of 5. 2-inch reach, 2 attacks, 4s, no rend, 1 damage. But obviously, if they do a 6 to hit, they do mortals. At the start of the charge phase, if the unit is more than 3 from all enemy units, you can pick an enemy unit within 12, roll 2d6, add 1 to the roll for every 5 models in the unit. If the roll is equal to or greater than the bravery of the enemy unit, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by the enemy unit that target this unit until the end of the turn. So they basically like jeer at the unit that's going to charge them, and if they successfully intimidate them, then they get a negative to hit. So Hobgrots. 1 wound, 6 up save, bravery of 4. Not particularly brave, these guys. They've got the scrap grenades, 8-inch throwing weapon. Oh, it's a ranged weapon. 4s, 3s, rend 1, damage 1. Slitter knives, 2 attacks, 4s, 5s, no rend 1 damage. You get +1 knife attack. Reroll Battleshark if you've got a totem bearer. 1 in every 10 can be a noise maker. They can run and shoot if they got a new noise maker. And the modified hit roll for attack made by the knives is a 6. It does 2 hits instead of 1. Now, what's important to note here? I don't think, do they get the venom encrusted weapons trait? I don't think they do. Cruel Boys Orc model, and I don't think they've got the Uruk keyword. So, oh, they do. Okay.
Uruk Warclans.
Okay. Oh no, Uruk Warclans. Yeah, so they don't have the Uruk keyword. Whereas, yeah, okay, cool. So they don't get venom encrusted weapons. Yeah, so stubble that the stabbing good is got a point because they don't get the trait. So, Manskewer Bolt Boys. So they're 2 wounds, 6 up save, move of 5, bravery of 5. So they've got a 12-inch range, 2 shots, 4s, 3s, rend 1, damage 2. 24 1 shot, 2s, 3s, 1 rend damage 2. 2 attacks, 4s, no rend 1 damage in combat. But they got this pick 'em off rule. So when it attacks, use the aimed shot if they didn't move. And is free from all enemy units. Otherwise, use hasty. There's no choice. So I actually found when they're close by, you want to be moving and shooting because you roll more dice, and you're fishing for 6s. And if you use your shaman, you're fishing for 5s to do your damage to mortal wounds. So if you a unit of 3 of them will roll 6 dice, and on 5s you do 2 mortals. The shooting's quite good. But the problem is they're quite low bravery, low save, low wounds. So, if you play the box set against the box set, the Stormcast should absolutely stomp the Cruel Boys because I think they're 400 points more. But the Cruel Boys are cool. Don't worry, they're all good. So that's the War Scrolls. I thought I'd do that because I know people would want to know. So.
Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate it. We've not seen numbers like this ever, so
no, it's been massive. Awesome. So yeah, thank you very much for everyone who's coming. We're gonna call it because it is 2 a.m. We're hanging a bit, as you could probably tell.
Anyone who is there, there is 200 of you. We would massively appreciate a like on the video and a subscribe on the channel. Would be awesome for us, and we have recently put the Facehammer Patreon up. There's some interesting stuff there which we will speak more about in the near future. But yeah, thank you so much for the support.
Yeah, and you can also become a member on YouTube, and there'll be some member only live streams, and you can get some cool little icons by your name and access to the emojis. I would say as well, in the week, we've got a video coming out about each of the things that we talked about in detail with the rules explained in sequence in a bit more structured way. So just check out those premieres. There's a playlist. If you hit the bell, you'll get notified. But every day, 8 o'clock UK time, all the way through until Sunday next week, you can basically check those out. And obviously, we'll put things in the comments, whatever. I'll try and answer them all. But massive support from you guys tonight's really appreciated. So thank you very much for tuning in, and check our channel out if you want more Age of Sigmar match play content, because it's basically what we do. And yeah, thanks very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, peeps. Cheers, guys. Bye.
See you later.